Have you ever had any moments in your life when, even though you do not want to entertain a certain relationship, after you've given it some time thinking that there was something in that relationship for you to learn, for you to enjoy, but after a while you just realize that nothing good can come out of that relationship? And still, there is this little insidious voice inside your head that tells you, no, there's still something for you there. I know you've given it a lot of time and energy, but keep going at it. I'm sure there is something for you there. Don't give up on them because there's still something for you there. That little voice is the ego lying to you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation when you want to do something, you have your mind set on doing something, whatever the case may be? You want to start up a business, you want to resume your education, and go to college in order to have a higher education. You want to learn a foreign language, for instance, and so on and so forth. And the idea sounds absolutely feasible and amazing and exactly the right thing for you to do. And yet, there is this little voice in your head that will tell you, you cannot be fluent in a foreign language. That is not something you can do. Maybe others can, but you can't. Look at you, you want to resume your studies, you want to resume your higher education. There is a reason why you are a dropout. Don't do it because you won't be able to do it. Oh, you want to start up a business? Do you understand how much money you have to invest first? Do you understand how many hours you have to work? Do you understand that doing it by yourself is not possible, that you will have to delegate this part of the job or that part of the job to people, employees, whatever the case may be? But look at you, you're not a manager. Again, that little voice is the ego. The impetus to do all those things, to start all those things, was indeed the ego. But then the ego goes on telling you that you are not able, you are not going to make it, you don't have the capacity, mental capacity, physical capacity to do this or that. Have you ever found yourself in a situation when you lost a dear, beloved one to disease, for instance, or in an accident, and they left their mortal body behind, and they are not in this 3D material world of ours anymore? Have you ever felt like they were gone forever? Have you ever felt like death is a finality? Because at the end of the day, you were brought up or pushed to believe that you are your body and nothing but your body. Well, again, that is the ego lying to you. Because there is no such thing as death, as we are, each and every one of us, a drop of source that chose to incarnate in each and every one of us to experience this 3D world. But when we leave our meat suit behind, when we say goodbye to this world, this physical world, we, as the drop of source that we are, go back to source. And since we are all one, nobody dies. You don't die, and the people you love don't die. That is something I understood when I said goodbye to my mother, who passed from a disease. I realized that she was not gone. I realized that she was in me. I realized that she was me. I realized that I was in her. I realized that I was her and she was me, in a way. In the way meaning that we are all one, all source. And it is something that you understand when you reach a certain level of spirituality, or even better, reach spiritual awakening, that is remembering who you are, aka the higher self, source, God, call it whatever you want, is that you are not your body. And every single time you think you are your body, Every single time you put more emphasis on your physical body than anything else in life. And what's left, than your body? Well, everything else. Everything else. Your spirituality, your divine origin. You are a divine being. We are all bits of source. We are all God, in God singular, in our own way. Because we all come from God. We all come from the higher self. We all come from source. Therefore, we all have the power of creation that God has in this 3D reality. The only thing that we have to take into account is the natural laws that rule this world. The natural laws being, for instance, attraction, gravity, duality. But those are few and far between when you really think about it. Because everything else that we think are laws are in fact, should I say, rules created by human beings. But keep in mind that every single rule that was created by a human being did not exist at the beginning, and at the beginning the world was just fine. It is something to realize you are not your ego. It is also something to realize that every single time your ego speaks more than it should, it is spewing lies into your ears, into your mind, into your heart. As I said before countless times, your ego should only be a tool for you to navigate this 3D material world. Without the ego in this world, without this tool that helps us navigate this physical world, we would all be brain dead. So we need the ego, but the ego needs to be kept in check. The ego needs to be muted and muzzled when it needs to shut up. And when you realize that your ego is lying to you, you also realize that the biggest enemy that you can possibly have on a spiritual journey, on your tailored spiritual journey, is also your ego. Because your ego is so scared that you might reach spiritual awakening, aka remembering who you are. That is not your ego. The ego wants to be the master. The ego wants to control you. When in actuality, you are the one who should be controlling your ego. Again, as I said, in order to use it as a tool to navigate this world. And that is as far as the ego should go. Anything else that the ego might say should not be heeded. And if you cannot do away with what the ego says, then try to muzzle it. What I found very useful for me at the beginning was to laugh at my ego. First, I would have gratitude because, as I said, your ego will give you a good idea, for instance. Like, for instance, when I decided to create my YouTube channel 2 months ago, my ego told me to do that. And I thought, wow, that's great, thank you. But then you can be sure that right after my ego told me to create my YouTube channel, it told me, no, you'll never make it. Like, nobody will give a you-know-what about what you have to say. There are so many spirituality channels on YouTube already. Why do you think yours will be any different? You have nothing to say. By the way, you look like you-know-what on videos. Like, do you want to impose your ugly face to the world? And that is when I told my ego that, wow, you're funny. You're really funny. Like, you gave me a brilliant idea. At least I think it is brilliant because I love making videos, and so long as I love making videos, I will keep on making videos. So in a way, I'm already a winner, in the situation. There's already something for me, in my creating videos for YouTube. But all of a sudden, the ego told me, no, you're not going to make it. And that is when I told my ego, yeah, you're really funny. You're really funny. You love to sabotage myself. I cannot say self-sabotage because you are not your ego, but your ego loves to sabotage you. And again, those are lies. those are lies. You know, it's the ego can almost be seen as this brilliant entrepreneur who is suffering from a massive case of self-doubt. So when the brilliant entrepreneur, that is your ego, tells you to do something, again, weigh the pluses and the minuses of what it is, you know, proposing to you to do. And if you think that you can make it, you know, then by all means, go on in this new adventure that was prompted by your ego. But the minute it starts telling you that you're not going to make it, just disregard it. Or like I did, I just laughed. I remember at times, you know, in the past, I would just laugh out loud on the street at what my ego would tell me in my head. And no, that is not schizophrenia. That is just, you know, thoughts that to me came across as laughable. And since your thoughts come from the ego, I think you are allowed to laugh at something that is external from you, because your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are external. And when your thoughts are gone, you're still here, right? So it means that your thoughts are not you. If your thoughts were you, the minute they are gone from your head, you would be gone too, but you're not. You're still there. Therefore, your thoughts are not you. Therefore, I don't find it schizophrenic to laugh at your own thoughts when your own thoughts are self-sabotaging, right? When they are trying to sabotage what you're trying to achieve in life. And you know, I could give you many more examples of your ego lying to you. I think you guys are smart enough to understand what I'm talking about and where I'm coming from. But I could go on and on and on. The idea, as I said before, that death is a reality and a finality in itself is a lie told to you by your ego. The idea that you should give more time and energy to a relationship that is obviously not working for you, despite all the energy and the time you've already invested it in, is your ego. Why? Because every single time you do something that your ego tells you to do, it is, in a way, taking the focus that you should have on yourself outside. What I mean by that is that if I take the example of a relationship, for instance, to hang on to a relationship that is obviously not working for you makes you focus on the without and not the within. You hold on to that relationship because you think for some reason that you are incomplete and that holding on to that relationship will complete you. You can oftentimes hear people say, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband, my wife, they complete me. And while it is very cute to say that, it is not the truth, because you are already complete. While I do understand the romantic meaning of it, it is a lie told to you by your ego. And to believe it could be very detrimental to yourself. Because should you not be with your wife or your husband, your girlfriend or your boyfriend anymore, should you break up, then you will feel incomplete, which is a lie. And so you will try to make them come back to you, hoping that you will feel this sense of completeness again. But the sense of completeness is a lie to begin with, because you are already complete. You are already complete because we are all one. There is only one source. We are all one. And even if we are drops of source in this 3D world, it doesn't take away the fact that on a 5D level, we are all one. That is why you cannot have attachment to things and people, because you are already them on a 5D level. The illusory separation that you might feel or experience on the 3D level is, as the name implies, an illusion. It is not true. And the more you focus on the illusory separation, the more you focus on the illusory sense of completeness that you experience with someone, the less you focus on yourself. And that will make your ego very happy. Because the more you focus on yourself, the more you advance on your spiritual journey towards spiritual awakening, which is remembering who you are. That is not your ego, but source. But of course, your ego doesn't want that. Your ego doesn't want you to remember that you are not your ego. Doesn't want you to remember that there is no such thing as death. It doesn't want you to remember that there is no such thing as incompleteness. Doesn't want you to remember that there is such thing as you are not your body. Your ego wants you to think you are your body. Because the more you believe you are your body, the more you anchor yourself in this 3D reality of ours. And the less you are inclined towards discovering who you really are. That is what the ego fears the most. For you to stop focusing on the external and start focusing on yourself. Because the ego knows that it is the beginning of its own demise. It is the beginning of its own being put back in its place. That is the place of a tool and nothing more than a tool. But the ego loves to be the master and you the slave. The ego wants you to stay in shackles forever. It doesn't want you to free yourself from the yoke of the ego. Because you free yourself from the yoke of the ego when you remember who you are. That is not the ego, but source. But that takes going within. That takes trudging along that spiritual path of yours towards spiritual awakening. And the more you focus on what is not you, aka a job, aka your body, aka your significant other, and so on and so forth, the less you will focus on yourself, and that will make your ego very happy. And the minute you are almost this close to focus on who you really are, then the ego will give you all the different lies in its arsenal for you to go back towards focusing on the external and not going within. And the moment you realize that your ego is telling you lies is one of the first steps you can take on your spiritual journey towards spiritual awakening. So in a way, be grateful to your ego. Because by its lies, it makes you, should you understand that they are lies and realize that they are lies and acknowledge them for the lies that they are, thanks to that, it helps you towards discovering, or dare I say remembering, because spiritual awakening is remembering who you are, towards remembering who you are. So in a way, be grateful to your ego for being an insufferable liar. And that is why realizing that your ego is lying to you is the first step towards spiritual awakening. In a way, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Because unbeknownst, or dare I say unwillingly, unbeknownst to the ego, unwillingly, the ego is pushing you towards spiritual awakening by all the lies it's telling you. And that is the way to look at it, from a glass half full perspective.